All right. Number one question that I get asked the most when I'm streaming by people or in Discord or whatever. The number one question that I get asked is how to improve with DAS on 19, because obviously being good on 19 is what differentiates you from other players. And I guess I should say this. My name is Tugi. I have a 1.3 million with DAS, one of only two players to have achieved that score. I have the post-transition world record, yada yada yada, enough sucking my own dick. I just recorded this video, but then I realized that I was using the wrong mic, so it's barely audible. So I was just talking for 20 minutes, and it wasn't even audible. So that's great. But yeah, anyways, when people ask me that question, I almost always give the same answer, which first part is having good DAS control, which is sounds like a given, but it really is. You know, if you can't move the pieces where you want to put them, then you're not going to be very useful. That's just always going to be such a big problem, you know, when you're deciding where to put pieces. So the thing about DAS with having good DAS control, you know, you basically want to get up to the point where the thought of like, okay, I need to put this piece here because I'm scared of like messing up the piece because I'm not confident in my DAS control. Basically, once those thoughts are completely rid of, like once you're completely rid of those thoughts, round about then is when I'd say you have good DAS control. And what I'm doing right here, I just completely failed, by the way. B-type 19.2. So if you want to improve your DAS control, just playing regular 19 starts on A-type, that's completely fine. It works. It definitely does improve your DAS control. And, you know, you're just playing 19, so obviously you're going to get better at playing 19. That's all well and good. But in my opinion, playing B-type, and more specifically 19.2, because, you know, 19.1 is a little bit too easy, and 19.3, you know, you're going to need consistent quick taps to clear that consistently. And that's the point. You know, it's not enough to just, like, be able to clear it once and then just say, like, okay, I've done 19.2, whatever, just check that off the list. No. When I say practice 19.2, what I mean by that is try and get to the point where you can basically clear this every single time, so like 90% of the time right about. And that's basically a good thing to aim for with trying to improve your DAS control. And the other thing about B-type, it's good for a multitude of reasons. One of them, obviously, building up DAS control. The other one, digging. Digging is very important. That's just a general thing with all sort of stacking in NES Tetris. Digging, you're gonna want to be able to dig efficiently and whatnot. So 19.2 obviously improves your digging. And then the third thing, which is kind of a thing that you have to try and actively do when you're practicing B-type, is try and push the limits of what DAS can do. And what I mean by that is when you're just playing and you're just trying to clear it, usually you're going to want to play it safe and go for moves that you definitely know are going to work, which is fine. You know, that's obviously what you should do when you're trying to go for a high score or whatnot. But when you're practicing, what I'd really recommend doing is, you know, if you have a certain move that you are almost certain, like you're 90% sure that it's not gonna go over, it's just not gonna work, it's not within the limits of DAS, still try and do it, you know, still try and practice it, because, you know, obviously you can study the limits of what DAS can do, but that's not going to do you much use in a real game. You're going to really want to have it hammered in exactly how far DAS can go. So if you're trying to experiment, and then, you know, most of the time you're just going to end up realizing, like, okay, yeah, I can't do this move, it's just too ambitious with DAS. But sometimes, you know, you're going to be surprised with how far you can push the limits. And since you're already so stripped of much movement when you're playing with DAS. You know, you really want to try and take all the leeway that you can get, and that really means pushing the limits. So yeah, that's and with pushing your limits, with really learning the DAS limits, just playing A-type also works if you're playing really aggressively. So I don't think that it's a bad training tool at all to just play mega balls to the wall and just try and play as highly as possible, you know? Because that, for one, also improves DAS control, because you need DAS control to play highly, and, or play high. And yeah, also just, you know, practicing how far pieces can go. So playing aggressively, you know, as a training tool on A-type, also a good way to learn that. But yeah, basically, for all of that, learning your limits, learning to load good DAS and whatnot. B-type 19.2, best level in my opinion to practice that. It's what I used to practice back in the day, and I still, you know, spend some time doing it nowadays even. So B-type is good, 19.2 is very good. So yeah, if that isn't in your training routine already, I'd heavily recommend doing that. If you're a DAS player, or even if not, like, if for some reason you're watching this video and you're not a DAS player, I appreciate the views, but yeah, B-type is also just good for, you know, even learning your limits with tapping. You know, it's with DAS, obviously all these things are more pronounced because, you know, stuff like your limits are you're already so limited, so you really need to learn where those limits are. You need to get every single last percentage point of aggression that you can take if you want to go for high scores. And even if you're not, you know, it's just good to know, even for consistency and whatnot. So that's the first part done. So before you want to try and learn all these crazy stacking moves and whatnot, you really want to just be able to have good, consistent DAS control. That wasn't very smart. And then we move on to the next point, which is the most important thing with improving your DAS 19 play, by far in my opinion. It's building out your left, and you hear it all the time: spam left, spam left, spam left. But it's told so much for a reason. It really is just the most important thing with keeping good board health, at least in terms of DAS 19 play, is to just have your left side built out. It's just going to make you so much more consistent with scoring high. So yeah, when you can just build out the left side, and also build it out well, you know, like, obviously don't just chuck pieces to the left without any thoughts. You also want to try and do it in a way where, basically, you want to build out the left side in a way where you can build out the left side even more more easily. So that obviously is a little bit more complex. It's not something that I can fully go over in this video. I don't even think that I could even make a full video about that, because most of it is just like, it's mostly just instinct at this point, because I've just practiced DAS 19 enough. That was a stupid move. Let's see if we can just get out of this quickly. Oh, that's unfortunate. I'm doing some weird moves there. Don't take that as advice. Don't take that game as advice. But yeah, it's relatively complex, so most of it you're just gonna have to learn after playing enough. So really just get into the mindset of having your left side being built out in a good way, having that your number one priority. Really incorporate that into your mentality when you're playing DAS 19. And once you do that, then from there on out, you can start to improve and start to figure out more ways on your own on how to do exactly that. However, there are a few moves which are just, very simple, but they are just basically moves that you almost always do in regards to building up the left side. The first one right there was just, putting the long bar column 1 when you can. So again, you need to have good DAS control for that, or good consistent DAS control for that, and also know exactly, when the long bar can go over and whatnot. So yeah, just putting long bars on column 1, it's a good move to have. It's almost always just going to be at least a decent move, and for the most part, it's really not a bad idea to just always do it. It's only going to be like 1 out of like 10 times where that's actually not the best move. And even then, it's not going to be a bad move by any means. And when I say that, obviously I'm not accounting for instances where you're Tetris ready. So yeah, just putting the long bars column 1 like that. Good to have, good to just always do. And yeah. Now the another move that's very nifty. Hopefully I can start demonstrating that in this game. Maybe not quite. It's building up square towers. When you have a square tower going on the left side, just keep it going, really. There's really no reason not to. It's right there, 2 squares in a row, just put them over to the left side. That square unfortunately can't go over, or at least I didn't think it can. And so I didn't put it there, but, right there, another square, just put it over to the left side, and another square, and yeah, it's really as simple as that. Just keep squares going to the left side. Because the thing about squares, if you're not familiar, obviously you go for right wall Tetrises on NES Tetris, and that's because, pieces have a bias towards moving to the right side. Generally, long bars go over more easily to the right side than they do to the left side, and that's why I don't see everybody playing with left walls. And that's the case for every piece except for the square, which doesn't have a bias in terms of getting over to the left and right. So basically, squares are actually usually not a good piece for your board most of the time. They're one of the least desirable pieces. And them not having a bias towards the right side is the one advantage they actually give. So if you're just building up square towers, you're using the one advantage that a bad piece, being the square, has to offer, and using that to your advantage. So, in that sense, it actually makes a lot of sense to keep building up keep building up square towers on the left side. I'm very sleep deprived, by the way, so if I repeat myself, I apologize. But yeah, so building up square towers, that's a good move to have. So far, long bars column 1 when you can. Just, it's just almost always just a decent move to make, and almost always also the best move to make. Just have column 1 built out, square towers, good to just keep them going. And the next one, which is something that I also don't see, or a lot of good DAS players actually not do enough, is when they have the opportunity, right there, just put the L upright on columns 1 and 2. So the L upright unfortunately doesn't go over that high to the left side, but when you do have the opportunity to just put it on the left side when you have a 2 wide on columns 1 and 2, and you can just chuck a L piece upright to the left side, it's almost always going to be beneficial to do that. So when you have an L, even if, and this is just a more general point about stacking as well, this applies to basically everything, board health takes priority over getting Tetris ready fast. So a lot of the time when you have an L piece and you might want to try and put it over somewhere else on the board rather than the left side to try and get Tetris ready quicker. Don't do that. Definitely don't do that. Don't let your mentality be, I need to get Tetris ready as fast as possible. That is not a good mentality to have. Not just with DAS 19, but just with general NES Tetris play. And the L, just putting it on the left side. Even if you could get Tetris ready quicker, even in those situations, I think it's almost always just the best move to make. So yeah, L's just upright on the left side, like right there. You know, it just builds out the left side so nicely. So yeah, in terms of actually understanding what a good left side is and whatnot, it's a little bit complex. Or as in, it's not something that I can just like say like, okay, you need to fill these and these requirements to have a good left side. If I tried to do that, it'd be too complicated for somebody who doesn't understand building out the left side at all, for them to just like watch it and then be like, okay, yeah, this is how you build on the left side. So most of it you're gonna just have to learn from practicing a lot. So in terms of improving that via practice, as I said, get into the mentality of, I need to build out the left side. That is my number one priority when you're playing with DAS, or especially when you're playing with DAS on 19 speeds. So this is a bit of an interesting dig. Basically needed a bar there, which I unfortunately didn't get. And another thing, this doesn't have to do anything with DAS, but I just want to get this message out there for anybody who's watching. Stop blaming RNG, for God's sake. RNG is not the reason why you're not getting the scores that you want. I guarantee you this. Okay? Because just think about it like this. Stacking fundamentally is just learning how to deal with as many RNG sequences as possible. If you think you're getting bad RNG consistently, then by definition you're stacking bad, and you need to fix that instead of complaining about the RNG. So if you want it in more nice words, in words that don't make me come across as a complete asshole, basically try and think of it like this. Any top out that you have, it's going to be a mix between making stacking errors and then consequentially getting the RNG sequences that punish you for that. So bad RNG, I guess you could call it. You can't fix the RNG. You're not going to be able to just like press a button and then get the piece that you want always. There's no technique to having better RNG than anybody else. But you know, you can definitely work on your stacking. So why would you focus on just complaining about the RNG? That's more of just a general thing that I just complain about a ton, is people blaming RNG. But anyways, this has been mostly just about DAS stacking. So we'll just do a quick recap. Get your DAS control in order. This is obviously mostly an advice for people of like a lower level of like, you know, 500k 18 start player. You know, when you get to the threshold where you really need to improve your 19 play in order to start improving your PB and whatnot. Yeah, just work on your DAS control. Obviously, if you don't know how to load DAS at all, there is a series on YouTube called I forgot what they're called, like NES Tetris tricks and tips or whatever. It's like a video series that's 7 years old. It's like a 5-part series, each video being like 5 minutes long. It just explains the basics of DAS very quickly, and it's basically all you need to know about the actual nuances of how to load DAS. Once you've watched those videos and you've understood those videos and whatnot, that's basically all you need to know. There are people who really understand how DAS loads at a very fundamental level. I am not one of those people at all. So, you know, it's nifty to know all of that. But basically, once you just know, okay, I need to press the button like this to keep DAS, that's basically good enough. And from that point on, it's basically just about practice in order to get to a good level of DAS control. So as I said, B-type 19.2, in my opinion, best training method for getting your DAS control up. Also has a ton of other benefits, as such as digging and whatnot. And when you're playing 19.2, I also recommend trying to experiment, trying to push the limits of DAS so you can really hammer in what those exact limits of DAS are. It's not enough to just like know like, okay, long bars can go over 6 sides to the left side with full DAS. You know, you really want to just have an instinct of like when you see the board and then instantly know, okay, I can get these and these pieces over, and these won't get over. So you want to be able to get up to that point with knowing the limits of DAS. And then building out your left side. As I said, the moves that I went over, long bars column 1, L is always upright, 1 and 2, and just keeping square towers going. Those are all good moves. I guarantee you, if you haven't incorporated those moves into your play, if you do incorporate those, you'll see almost instantaneous results. I can almost certainly guarantee you that. And then beyond that, just get into the mindset of, okay, building out your left side is the number one priority when you're playing with DAS on 19. So yeah, and then beyond that, just practice, and don't blame RNG. So this has been these are just my thoughts. If you have further questions, do feel free to just leave a comment. I'm also very reachable on Discord, and I stream quite often, so if you want to just ask me questions in chat, do feel free to stop by, or write me a message on Discord. I don't really do coaching that much, but you know, I don't actually have any sort of like reasons why I don't do that. So if you really want coaching from me, I guess I could do it. But in terms of coaching, I actually recommend hitting up my friend Aki, who usually roams in the Kingsman's Discord server, where he has this little corner, and he actually does coaching, and has done coaching for tons of players, and in my opinion, does it very well. So if you want coaching, I recommend hitting him up. But if you have just some smaller questions about what I went over in this video, or other questions or whatever, I don't know, what is my favorite flower? If you want to ask me that, go ahead, just leave a comment or hit me up on Discord. Yeah, that's been it. Hope this has been helpful, and yeah, I guess this is the part where I say subscribe, donate a bunch of money to me, and yeah, get me out of poverty. I don't know. Goodbye.